Over the years, I've done a lot of sailing in Scotland, but I've never sailed to Scotland. The challenge of sailing solo from our home base of Dartmouth, heading west to the Scillies, then north across the Celtic Sea, the Irish Sea, the North Channel, and finally reaching the west coast of Scotland, was something I'd long been wanting to undertake. 2024 was at last looking like the year that this might just work. Haul out was booked for November 23, and Florence was soon tucked up in the boatyard ready for a long winter of work. Launch day arrived in that inevitable way that it usually does, and we were as ready as we were ever going to be. With the trip log reset and Florence back in the water, we were eager to get going. Just leaving Dartmouth, Friday the 10th of May. So at last, we're on our way. Just the second yacht I've seen since leaving St Martin's. That was 5 days ago. We're just off the entrance to Carlingford Loch, which means we're crossing the border from Ireland into Northern Ireland. Heli Hunter Cardinal, which is very kindly guarding me from the ominously named Heli Hunter rocks. So very grateful to Heli Hunter Cardinal. Leaving Ardglass, a little bit murky compared to yesterday, but you'll see. 6 hours of north going tide, and we'll see how far we get. Not a lot of wind, but yeah, we'll see what happens. There's a bit of wind filled in from the east now. We're just entering North Channel where the tide's reasonably strong. Combination of fair tide and a bit of breeze, doing 5.5 knots in the right direction, which is always good. Been doing 6 to 7 knots on the tide for the last hour or two. It's got Copeland Island to starboard as we enter Donaghadee Sound, and then hopefully just round the headland in front, going to anchor. It's been a good passage today. 36 miles with the tide and a little bit of wind. And here we are anchored at Ballyholme Bay, which got a lot of houses looking at us, but never mind, it's not a bad anchorage. Might get a bit of a sunset. Just made a fresh pot of coffee, some cakes. I didn't make the cakes. Yeah, all good. Stopping in Glenarm for a couple of nights. There's a lot of wind coming in from the northwest tomorrow, so needed to get some shelter. You wouldn't really believe it based on what a beautiful evening it is now, but you've got to assume the forecast's right. But the other thing is, across the other side of the quay, won't come out in the video, but in the distance I can see Scotland, which is a major landmark to have reached. 500 nautical miles on the log, just past 500 today. Left Dartmouth 10 days ago, so I'm pretty happy with that. Leaving Glenarm after 2 days of stormbound. 8 miles up the coast today to Red Bay, anchor there tonight and pick up tomorrow's tide round Kintyre and maybe up to Gigha. We'll see. Halfway across the North Channel, all going to plan, I'm pleased to say. Got a decent southeasterly breeze. It's just about slack water now, so we'll be getting a bit of tide with us soon. Doing about 4.5 knots at the moment under reduced sail, and it's all okay. There's the coast of Northern Ireland behind us. And then Kintyre in front of us. That is the Mull of Kintyre on the starboard beam. Got a nice course more or less due north, heading up the west side of Kintyre and looking to get up to Gigha hopefully this evening and anchor there. This is pretty amazing. Water's flattened off, now we've got a tide with us and we are going along at nearly 8 knots with the tide. Completely flat water, beautiful conditions, absolutely wonderful. I think I can say I've officially made it to Scotland. First anchorage on the west side of Gigha. Looking over to the west to Islay. Can't quite see the Paps of Jura, but well, this will do for a first night. Pretty pleased with this. Probably about as close to idyllic as you're going to get. It is absolutely perfect. We are almost north of Ardnamurchan Point on the summit of Askival. Black Coolins in the distance.